are listening to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast. The production team are Angel Moore and Georgia Sutherland. I'm Yve Robinson and welcome to the show. Hello, here we are at the Community Wealth Builders podcast, and today we're talking to James Woods of the Citizens Advice Bureau, Doncaster.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, that's
welcome.
right. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Right, firstly, if you can just tell us a little bit about what Citizens Advice do.
So we're a free, impartial, confidential advice charity based in Doncaster. We provide advice and support on a variety of different topics. Benefits and debt are our main things that we provide advice on, but we do provide advice on housing, immigration, employment, family law, all that sort of thing. We aim to just try to support people through things like the cost of living crisis and the energy crisis as best we can through empowering them and supporting them with things like food vouchers, fuel vouchers, energy resources. We've got a really interesting energy project at the moment. So we're just basically here to help support the people of Doncaster with the troubles and problems that they face.
Right, and whereabouts are you based?
Well, we've got 32 locations across the city. So we've tried. I've been in charge 2 years, and my approach to the service was, let's be where the issues are. Because in the past we were very much city centre based, where people had to come and see us, and there were long queues and things like that. So my approach has been to try to base ourselves in communities, because we recognise that Doncaster is made up of smaller mining communities and things like that. So we wanted to be where people were struggling. So we're in 32 different locations across the city, and we're finding that's been a positive approach for us. Since I took over, we doubled the amount of people that we're able to see on an annual basis. So we saw in the region of 10,000 people in the last year. So yeah, it's really good.
That's impressive, that really is. So the first port of call, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, they probably go to a website.
Yeah, we've got a website, cadoncasterborough.org. On there's information, some self-help information, because some people just need to read something to be able to take some action themselves. There's all that sort of information on there. And there's a partner referral, so if you're in a partner organisation or you working for a charitable organisation or in the VCFE sector, you can make a partner referral of somebody to us. Or if you're just an individual wanting some help, we've got a client or person referral form. Just fill your details in and we'll try to contact you within, we'd say 3 to 5 days, but we're incredibly busy at the moment. But we do try and get back in touch with people as quickly as we possibly can.
But the thing is that I remember when you were sort of at the old Guildhall place, and there did used to be massive queues, but you've obviously eliminated that now.
Well,
or tried to.
We tried to, but that's we've been able to bring in more funding, which again strengthens our offer to the people of Doncaster. We are now offer different projects, so we can support people with different issues. But in terms of demand, we receive roughly in the region of 800 calls a week, but we've got the capacity for just over 1,000 appointments a month. So the demand in Doncaster is really significant, and it is a real challenge of ours. But being more accessible and having people having self-help support available, and having a website which you can send us your details and we'll contact you. Because what we sometimes found, and particularly with things like debt, is that asking for help, that first step is always the most difficult. So we've tried to make that first step as easy as possible. We've got like I say, locations across the city. If you contact us that once, we will then make sure we do our best to support you and get back in contact with you for the challenges you may have. What we've also tried to do from a service perspective is make sure we're as accessible as possible. So we've tried to work with marginalised groups, and when we've worked a lot with veterans, and we've got a deaf advisor, because Doncaster, I don't know if you know this, is one of the largest deaf communities outside of London. So we really recognise that the deaf community were marginalised in terms of the support offer that was available to them in Doncaster. So when I took over, that was something that we wanted to try to address. And I feel like we've done that, or we've made a headway into doing that by having, we've got one fully deaf advisor and one BSL trained advisor. So again, like, we're as accessible as we can be, and we're trying different ways to increase our accessibility to people that may be struggling with challenges.
You may not be able to answer this, but why have we got a bigger. Is it because of the
I
school?
think it's
perhaps?
because
I'm going to say because the school is a centre of excellence, and so because I remember my cousin, she came to go there and then did settle in Doncaster. So I suppose that has an impact on things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the community wealth builders and how you can help with that, people to facilitate, the use of it. So how do you get involved in that?
So we've undertaken some of the training courses that Community Wealth Builder have put on. We also attend some of the meetings, and I'm the chair of the Doncaster Advice Network, so that's like 40 organisations that work in the field of advice and in the third sector. So we work with Community Wealth Builder to make sure that we're sharing their message and their work and the accessibility to things like the training and things that they offer.
Just to reiterate, just because some people may not know, the third sector.
So the third sector, it's voluntary and community organisations across Doncaster. So like the Citizens Advice is a charitable organisation. It's a charity in its own right in Doncaster, and we sign up to a national membership. So it's things like that. So other community groups or charitable groups that work in Doncaster.
And so if somebody wanted to set up a charitable group, you'd be there to help them, would you?
Well, we could try to. What we would probably do is put them in contact with the local voluntary action infrastructure organisation that could do that. And there's a couple of good ones in Doncaster, like the Charity Hub are really quite good. And the Voluntary Action Doncaster is still working in some sphere in Doncaster. And then there's the launch of the Great Eight, I believe it's called, which is a new initiative from the local authority to try and support the voluntary and community organisations with things like infrastructure set up and that sort of stuff. So if we were able to help, we would find an alternative signposting location to
so you'd
support
be able to
with.
signpost people to
where
they could go for grants and things like that, because that's the difficulty. Although, to be honest, I think when somebody's got the impetus to do it, they can probably initially find themselves grants and things, but possibly after that it's making sure that you're actually working within a proper guideline. Is that the case?
Yeah, and we're quite a large charitable organisation. So we've got a board of 12 trustees, 53 staff. So, but not all community and voluntary organisations are that size. But it's always good to have some good level of guidance and governance as to what your aims are as a charitable organisation or third sector organisation, to ensure that you can have the impact that you're looking to have. So if I guess making sure that you understand what your purpose is when you set out on this journey, what your values are, and maybe looking for gaps in the market or something that's not currently on offer. That would be a good approach.
Yeah, because it'd be good you don't want to be duplicating what somebody else is doing, because you could probably augment with them rather than
And from our perspective, we're always interested. I feel like we're good at what we do. We've got the AQS award for quality of advice for our debt and our welfare rights, and we're members of the Financial Conduct Authority, so there's rules around providing financial advice. But if you're an organisation that would want to partner with us, I feel like there's things that we don't offer because it's out of our skill set as an organisation, but we could add value to your organisation by working with you, and likewise with other organisations. So we are always open to discussions around partnering or working with other organisations or supporting people with their aspirations or goals.
I suppose you also have to tread carefully when it comes to the financial side of things, because it's very easy to think, oh yes, well, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be doing that, and not realising that you have to make sure that you are totally transparent.
Yeah, and funding and grants and things like that is one of the biggest challenges across the sector. Even from a large organisation like ours, we do struggle with getting the funding required to meet the demands of the service. So what we've tried to do is diversify our funding stream. So we do get some funding from certain sources to provide advice, but we've also looked to increase our offer and diversify the streams in which we get the funding from. So we've initiated some really interesting projects that are outside the scope of advice, but still support with advice provision. So one example of that would be our digital inclusion projects. We've got a really exciting digital inclusion project, which runs across the whole of South Yorkshire, and it provides devices and data banks. It provides a device and data bank for people that are digitally excluded. it also offers things like skills courses. So you can join a 6-week skills course with us. We will teach you how to use a tablet, to how to set up an internet, how to manage your finances with online banking and things like that. And then at the end of the course, we'll give you a tablet to take away. So you're sort of like prepping during the 6-week course of how to use it. So this approach of doing something different, it still feeds into advice, because we will talk to people about things and identify things in these skills sessions that we're doing that an advisor would be able to step in and support them with. But also it gives us more strings to our bow in terms of we're now in the field of providing skills training and supporting people in a different way that they still need and still has an impact on the level of poverty they may suffer from. But it's just a different approach to trying to solve that, I guess.
Yeah. And when people do come to you, and if they're already an established charity, where would you send them to if they needed to sort of like go that one step further and get a bit bigger? Are you able to help with that kind of?
Yeah, well, I guess charities are still businesses at the end of the day. So I'm a member of I'm on the board of Doncaster Chamber, and that Doncaster Chamber have had some really great skills courses and some really good support to new businesses and charities. So I would probably signpost them to Dan at the Chamber, who are really great with their offer.
Yeah, they do some great work. I know with the Little Theatre, they've sort of helped out there. And it is always good to know that you can go to these, what seem like a big organisation, and yet you get individual treatment, don't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I feel like they recognise the importance that small businesses have in Doncaster, and that impact feeds into a more culturally diverse city, a better offer for residents of the borough. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of Dan and all he does at the Chamber.
Yeah, he does do a lot of good work. That's Doncaster Chamber of Commerce, if you're not sort of familiar, isn't it? Yeah. And if somebody came into you with a brand new idea, would you be able to signpost them where to go for help with something new that they haven't even set up?
Yeah, I think so. And there's very good local and national organisations that do this. So, like I say, the NCVO, the National Volunteer Organisation, has got some really great guidance on things like that, and setting up new businesses and incorporating volunteers into what your offer is. So yeah, like I say, we our specialism is generally advising people on the problems that they face. But if we don't offer something, we will look to support either through links with the Chamber or links with infrastructure organisations that support the third sector in Doncaster.
Right, okay. And you just touched on diversity. Do you find that the smaller marginalised communities that might want to set up something have a difficulty? Is there a barrier, or are you the ones that sort of break down that barrier?
I'd like to think we break down that barrier. And I recognise that there's a diverse city, Doncaster. So you do need to tailor your services in order to meet that need and that offer. So yeah, I'd like to think so.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know. And when it comes to sort of like grants and things, you probably just signpost people to where to go, because it is a difficult process sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
To know whether you're going to, because you can sometimes put yourself in a bid and then find you don't get anything, but that's because you probably didn't put your bid in properly.
Yeah. Well, the only grant we do offer is we have a digital inclusion grant where organisations can apply for up to £3,000 for any project or event or piece of equipment that would support somebody or a group of people with digital inclusion. So we do have that as a grant that we offer on our own right, and that can be obtained. The information on that can be obtained through our website. So that's one that we do. But in terms of understanding criteria and things for grants and funding applications, it is really difficult. My advice would be to try to tailor it to the needs of the requirements of each, but try to do it in a way that demonstrates how the work you're doing and your goals and your ethos for your organisation, how that fits with the funders, and try to be clear on the impact that you're going to have and how you're going to achieve that. Because I feel like a lot of funding bids possibly fall down on the fact that the project sounds good, but they don't follow up with how they're going to show the impact, how they're going to demonstrate the impact. And as a charitable organisation, you've got to be good at saying what you're good at. You've got to be good at championing your cause. And I feel like that's something that many of us are not so good at. So we've tried to be better at doing that in terms of like the content we put out on social media and things like that. And the fact that if we have an event, we really try to champion the impact that we've had in Doncaster. So from our organisation's perspective, we've seen 10,000 people. We've brought £13 million worth of income gains to those 10,000 people that we've seen. So Doncaster's £13 million better off by the work of my team. So things like
congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. But it's really about that sounds impactful, and that's great. But have those types of stats and figures to hand if you're asked to do something, or particularly if you're putting a funding bid in, be specific. I will have this level of impact, and this impact will mean that less people are living in poverty in Doncaster. There's less pensioners unable to heat their homes this winter. These are all things tangible things that I can say the impact my service has had on the community. So try to when you're writing your bids, try to think about that.
You've got to think of it as in terms of, like, if you're going to a bank and you had to have a business plan, it's got to have no holes in it, and you've also got to say, the reason we're best placed to do this is because we're the best at it.
Yeah. And you are try to set up a robust way in terms of keeping track of what you do. Because if you're like us, if you see a lot of people, sometimes it's difficult to make sure all the data aligns, and then you're achieving the outcomes. So make sure that you've got a clear plan as to how to do that. Would be my advice. Yeah,
I suppose one of the things to do is have a really good board behind you.
Yeah, and I feel like that's key. I feel like when I talk to other organisations across the sector, and from a chief exec perspective, having a supportive board makes such a difference. They're on board with some of the suggestions I want. They were on board with the change from a "you come and see us" to "we'll be where you are" approach. So I think the fact that the board don't micromanage what aspects of what I do, it makes my life easier. So yeah, if you're interested in being a trustee, I would guess just make sure you're supporting your chief exec while not trying to take over and be them. Because I feel like a board's role is to be the very strategic eye of the organisation, to keep an eye on what's coming, like future planning, horizon scanning, but also to keep an eye on what's going off, but have trust and faith that the person you've got in the chief exec role understands the day-to-day workings of the organisation. And we've got a really great board with diverse people on it, so I do feel like that's allowed us to make some of the advances and changes and things like that we've tried to implement since I took over. It's good to have good people who've got good skills, and part of good skills is knowing when to let the person who you've employed to do their job. But I think that's a good thing to put out, is that a good board behind you would be very helpful. Yeah, definitely. And being a trustee is really interesting, and it does give you the opportunity to have a local impact. So if you are interested in being a trustee, there's always charities like ourselves that are looking, or other organisations. It really gives you the opportunity to make an impact within your local community in a different way, not necessarily as hands-on. So yeah, if anybody's interested, I would recommend it. I enjoy being on the chamber board, and then the strategic decisions that requires you to make. So yeah, the charitable organisation would be very similar. Yeah. The thing about Doncaster, we actually have got a very strong volunteer community, haven't we? Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's a really good community, and it's quite a large community as well. Like at Citizen Ice, we've got in the region of 25 volunteers that give up their time, and I feel like they're the foundation of the service. Really, like some of the services, some of the reach we've got, and some of the accessibility and things like that, we wouldn't have that without our core volunteers. And the trustees are all volunteers, so the strategic direction of the organisation itself is guided by volunteers. Because the thing about it is, there's a lot of people who, when they become to retirement age, like myself, you sort of think to yourself, right, okay, what do I do now? And actually, all that expertise that you've gathered over the years, you can then put into place, can't you? Of course. And I think that's an area that trustees sort of lack. Like, a couple of years ago, when I first took over, our treasurer left, so we had a real difficulty in trying to find somebody with the right skill sets to fill that role. We did end up getting somebody, and he's fantastic. But from chairing the Dan network, it is a constant challenge that charitable organisations have, is like finding people with the right skill sets that could support a charity. And I feel like businesses and people often overlook, like, what you think is day to day and would find easy. Sometimes that's a real gap in a charitable sector organisation that could be filled and could be supported. It could really allow them to kick on and make a real impact in Doncaster.
Because sometimes, if you, like, we had the sleep charity on last, and when we were talking to her, one of the things is she came from a view of, I've had problems with my child, I can't get it to sleep, and then it built from there. Now, the thing about that is, if you're dealing with that, you may not be very good on the computer. I mean, she was, but you may not be au fait on the computer. You may not know about using social media to push. So it's like, if you can get somebody in to do that, then you're left to do the expertise work, aren't you?
Definitely. And I really think a successful organisation is based on the team that you build around you. So, I don't profess to have the skills in every field that I have, but I've got a fantastic team, and that's made up of volunteers, it's made up of trustees, it's made up of ops manager, it's made up of supervisors and project leads and things like that. And we're able to achieve because we all share the same goal and we all want the same thing in terms of our vision for the services is all connected. So I do feel like having a successful and knowledgeable and experienced team around you does allow you to make the advances and be successful.
Yeah, I think very often people don't look at the volunteer sector as it's just another way of running a business, except for that you use volunteers. And the thing about it is, you have volunteers with absolute expertise, and they've garnered that knowledge over the years, haven't they?
Oh yeah, of course. And in most cases, they're expertise that would be incredibly expensive to employ as a charitable organisation. So there is that cost element to it as well. But yeah, we've got some fantastic members of our board who've got a really diverse skill set and experience base. So yeah, I do feel like that's one of the key contributing factors to, if you're starting out a new charity or a new social enterprise. As hard as it is to recruit sometimes, that's a key foundation to being successful in your field.
Well, I'm actually going to put you on the spot now and say 3 top tips for somebody that's going to set up a charity.
So from our approach, what I try to do is put community at the heart of what we do. We understand communities were struggling with things like the cost of living crisis and the energy crisis, and the poverty rates in Doncaster are pretty high. So we try to design a service around what the locals need, and involve service users in the delivery. So for quite a lot of our projects now, we ask the community, what would you like? So we've got a project that's based in GP surgeries. So we went out and spoke to GP surgeries. How could we support you? What would make your lives easier? What would reduce repeat appointments? And from the information we gathered from the residents and from the GPs and from the practitioners that worked there, we were able to design a really effective and impactful service that was able to reduce people using the GP surgeries, and had fantastic income gains, fantastic health and well-being tracking. So be clear in what you want to do, but try to put the community at the heart of it and involve people that are going to use the service in the design of it if you possibly could. Try to diversify your funding would definitely be one, and invest in your team. I think giving your team opportunities to grow and develop is as important as hiring somebody that maybe already has those skills. I feel that builds a stronger team, and if somebody can see a career path within your organisation, to me that's stronger than just recruiting somebody to it. And measure and celebrate your impact, demonstrating the difference you make in our case, to people's lives financially, from a mental health perspective and a well-being perspective. That is really, really significant, and that does have wide-reaching impacts, not just on individuals within communities, but the communities themselves. And it allows you to build up trust. I feel like Citizens Advice is a trusted brand from a national scale, but also I'd like to think that locally we've done a lot over the past 2 or 3 years to increase our trust and an awareness of what we do, how we offer, and how we can really support the people that need it. So yeah, I guess, and then off to that allows you to attract funding and staff and allows you to grow as a business.
Yeah, no, that sounds. No, those 3 points actually, very, very good points to make. If I was a charity that had started up and I now find myself sort of in financial difficulties because I didn't know where I was going, would you be a good point of reference to come to?
Yeah, we would. It depends how you've set your charity up, because whether there's personal liabilities and stuff like that. So if there's personal liabilities, we could definitely sort that out. And we've got a specialist debt team that have won some national awards and things like that. So in terms of that, yes. In terms of if it's business related, there are things we can and can't do. But we would have the expertise and knowledge as to who to put you in contact with and support you with whether signposting or something like that.
Because I think that is one of the pitfalls, isn't it? That you think, oh yes, I've got an idea, and like you say, there's loads of things that you should do, but you may not have done them. So that's a good point for everybody to listen to, is that if you find yourself in problems, don't just give up.
Yeah, and I feel like it transcends business startups. Like if you are in difficulty, or you are struggling, or you're going to fall behind with a bill or your mortgage or your rent or something like that, these things are or much easier sorted out if you be brave and ask for help sooner.
Yeah, you have to face it, don't you?
If it gets to the stage where your house is you've got an eviction notice and you've got to go to court, that's much more difficult for our team to try to resolve and stop that process going ahead than it would have been if you'd have contacted and said, I'm going to fall out of sync with my rent payments, for example. So be brave. We understand how difficult it is to ask for help, particularly with things like financial difficulties, but there is support there, and we'll try to support you and make it as easy for you to get the advice and support you need as we possibly
can. And like you say, the sooner you get onto it, and I know it's difficult. Sometimes people just get letters and they don't open them. But the thing is, that's the brave thing to do.
Yeah.
Open them and then ask for help.
Yeah. And that's the big step. And once you've made that step, every next step is easier.
Yeah. And it's not as if you're giving free money, but you are giving free advice that will help towards resolving those problems.
Yeah, definitely. And there is things we can do. So we offer fuel vouchers, we offer food vouchers, we've got an energy pack scheme at the moment where we're offering warm home devices. So things like door stops, window seals, radiator covers. If you're struggling with your energy, our team can sort that out. But we can also support you to reduce your energy usage as well, so that you won't continue to be in debt. Right. So not only are we offering the solution to the debt problem that you may have, we're looking to try to support you to reduce it moving forward once the debt is gone or has been written off or whatever. So it's sort of a two-pronged approach. But the key to us being able to support you through it and to find the light at the end of the tunnel is to make that first step.
Yeah. And the thing is that the things you're saying about energy and everything, it all helps anyway. There isn't anybody that doesn't think, well, my bills have gone up. I need to sort of address that.
And I feel like I used to be an advisor, and they used to get the comment of, oh, you've never seen anybody in as much debt as me. It's like, I would assure you, I definitely have. So don't be worried about how much something seems to you.
Yeah.
The advisors will have seen words, and it's not uncommon for people to fall into difficulty. And the idea that it's anybody's fault, and the narrative that you sometimes get in the media around benefits claimants and things like that, I don't particularly like. The benefit system is there as a safety net.
Yes.
If you need it, you should be accessing it.
Yeah.
Particularly with pension credit. So we've heard a lot in the news recently about the winter fuel allowance changing and stopping. But there was something like £5 million worth of pension credit already that was going unclaimed in Doncaster because of and I might be broadly jumping the gun a little bit, but I think some of that was not claimed because of the stigma associated with claiming benefits. So don't be ashamed. Like, it's there to. We're here as an organisation to support you. The support we can offer, the benefits we may be able to get you, it's there to help you out of the problems that you're getting in, and that's the reason it's there.
Yeah. And the thing about, but like you're saying about, debt and it all happening, it's not anybody's fault. If anybody's ever watched I, Daniel Blake, you'll know that it's not somebody's fault. And that quite a few people, especially if you're in a rented accommodation, it can be that you're only 2 paydays away from being homeless.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
the thing is, you have to sort of address it, and it's that there is. I know there is a stigma, but there shouldn't be, because the reason we've all paid into the situation is because we want to be able to help. We want to be a good community.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like any one of us can reach these trigger points in life. Like, you could get divorced, you could have I could get hit by a car walking back to the office like this afternoon, and then I would be out of work and my income would drop, and that. So you're not alone in these trigger points that people find themselves. It's in life, like, just ask for help. But like, that would be my, like, if you take anything from the conversation today, like, don't be afraid to ask for help. There is the support there, and I've got a fantastic team, really knowledgeable, really qualified, who, if they can't help you, which I'd be surprised if they can't, then they'll put you in contact with the right people who can.
Yeah. Well, that's. I think we've sort of rounded that off quite well, really, because you've signposted what we need to do if you're a charity, but also as an individual, you've also looked into that as well. So thank you very much. It's been really interesting talking.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast. Today's guest details can be found in the bio.